Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Uh-oh, do I have
Mm,
echo?
What's that?
I thought I had an echo, but no, I don't think I do.
Oh, okay.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm actually in Arizona. We came here on Sunday for 1 week.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Arizona, the weather is hot.
Very hot, yeah.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, we have blue green vacation package. So we yeah, it allows us to home away from home. And
Mm-hmm.
this place is very, very big, which is for my girls. The swimming pools and the water slides and they just have everything. So I stay cool in, they do their thing. I live in a different my own apartment by myself. I send them to their own.
Oh, that is so nice.
Yeah, it just feels like okay, I'm away from kids until like 3 p.m.
Right, right. A nice break. Well, great. All right. What did you want to
Yeah.
discuss today?
Um, I have a lot of stuff, but I want yesterday. Um, I finally I had not really even known anything about it. So I have my girlfriend in Maryland who has been bugging me. It's like she really wanted me to officiate her wedding. And I said, look, I am not I minister in the church, but one thing I have never wanted to do is pastoral ministry. So I'm not ordained. She said, but I still want you to officiate the marriage. So yes, she and I were talking yesterday after I called one of my colleagues at school, and she said, Alice, what are you talking about? You just there's online, you can go online and become a minister. So what the hell are you talking about?
Hmm.
I wasn't even aware. And she sent me, then she said, I'm a universal life minister. I said, what do you mean? But anyway, I went to find out that indeed there are legitimate sites you can become a minister. Not only can you become a minister to get married, to be able to officiate marriage, for universal life, you can do that. You have just become a minister. You
Mm-hmm.
can do funerals and everything else. It was the biggest surprise of my life. But more importantly, the one thing though that was intriguing, which is, I think you already know that by me, I'm more about interfaith than a particular denominational affiliation. So the specificity of there is, I did both Universal Life. I found Universal Life and then there's another American something ministries. Do you know I did apply for the license for both, and boom, I became a minister.
Wow.
But the thing I want to talk about though is not the fact of that, is the ideology behind the Universal Life Church, is that ability for people who do not want to be attached to one denomination to cross boundaries and be able to minister to different people of different faith tradition or no faith at all. And the intriguing thing that I wanted to share is, like I said, isn't this exactly what chaplaincy does? Is that ability to cross boundaries and become essentially a chaplain becomes one that do care ministry to everyone, irrespective of what faith tradition you are. You have to be able to do caregiving to everyone. And I was looking at that and I'm saying, well, this will be an interesting thing to find out from you. One, I did not know anything about this until yesterday, but it became really intriguing. And I said, this actually solves maybe that has been my fundamental problem with traditional church, where you are tied to one church, tied to one denomination. You are again morally bound by the philosophies of that tradition, and you really don't feel there's always this crisis of faith in you in crossing boundaries as a minister of that church. It
Got it.
becomes crossing those boundaries, it becomes problematic for you because you are bound to, this is what we believe,
Got it.
you
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
So this for me yesterday, not only it solved a problem of a wedding that I want to officiate, but it solves a huge problem of that crisis of faith I've always had. Because to be very honest, I'm fundamentally Presbyterian. I was born Presbyterian, raised Presbyterian, lived 15 years in a Presbyterian convent. So I am fundamentally Presbyterian, even though I was called to serve, to help this emerging church. But I'm still fundamentally Presbyterian. But there's a lot of things about Presbyterians I don't agree. This church I'm currently in, massively 50% I don't agree because it's so fundamentalist in its orientation, so always targeting gay and lesbian, the LGBT community is like the sin of the world. So I'm like, they know I dissociate myself from that. So I mean, extremely, I'm vocal about that. So yesterday became a thing that solves a huge problem for me. I'm like, okay, if I can become a minister somewhere where I can literally serve everyone, that for me is the biggest liberation, even though it's an online ordination that they give you. For me, it becomes the biggest internal freedom and solves the biggest crisis of faith I've always had. And they really, most of the time, these pastors, like the moderator of my church in Cameroon, he has never understood why I resisted ordination so bad. Even this church I went to, the pastor is like, you are way too qualified. Let's ordain you. I said, no, I will not be ordained a pastor, my parish pastor. People have never understood the reason I'm in resistance. But even myself, I think also chaplaincy allowed me to really understand why I have always resisted. I mean, it's not just simple resistance. I've been so vehemently against pastoral ordination, period. They want to be tied to the ministry of a parish pastor or a congregational pastor, no. But the enlightenment for me yesterday that is intersecting with chaplaincy, the fundamental philosophy of interfaith service, for me, I felt deep freedom. I said, Lord, if that's how I'm called to serve, I felt a deep sense of freedom that however the configuration of the United Life Church, it allows that crossing of boundaries. And the irony, the person that signs the ordination certificate is a chaplain. That is the biggest irony.
Ah,
When they sent me the draft of the certificate, it is a chaplain. you
wow.
know. And I'm like, was this created by chaplaincy? I don't know whether you know anything, but it's a chaplain that signs that. It's
That's
like, of course, a
awesome.
chaplain would do that, right? Because chaplains,
Yeah.
that's what they do. Anyway, I thought I
It
would share
sounds,
with you, and yeah.
sounds like you found a spiritual home.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
just because I want to officiate this marriage this is a very good friend. I've known her since Cameroon,
Yeah. Yeah.
and she would not let anybody else do it. And I'm like, why? I don't want to do it. I'm not ordained a pastor.
Right.
So it's not. Then my colleague said, what the hell? I am a minister of the United Life Church, and I
That
do
is
ordinations and
awesome.
everything. Yeah.
There's a
But have you
wonderful
heard about
critique
it?
here of the
Mhm.
intersection of these systems of the
Right.
those churches and their agendas and
Hmm.
the way they do their orienting system and how
Hmm.
yours collides with it, but you're maintaining your authenticity. I'm so
Hmm.
glad to hear a chaplain signs it because that I mean, that means perhaps it is recognized by the board certification committee. Because for BCCI, for your board certification as a chaplain, you
Hmm.
have to have a letter from somebody that they recognize that is a community of accountability for your faith tradition, whatever it may be. So
Either that
the
or the
chap,
church where I, yeah. Mhm.
well, they have to be someone that the BCCI recognizes. So
Mhm.
that makes me think that Universal Life Minister probably does, since a chaplain signed it. Was that the one where the chaplain signed it?
Yes, and I will show, I will,
You will check and
um,
see, are they, I forget the language, but if you look on the board certification application, it says, um, I just can't remember the language, but
mhm,
it's just a matter of you taking 5 minutes to look at the application. It's like the very first thing. And then you can
mhm,
ask them, hey, is this organization one that you recognize? So that a letter
mhm,
from them would be sufficient. And if it
mhm.
is, they probably already have a format for that.
Right.
I'm so glad to hear, because I would think a chaplain probably secured that relationship with BCCI.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
the person,
great.
yeah, it's a
That's great.
chaplain that signs it. Right. I'm going to find out then. And even at that, as I said, I'm still a member
Doesn't
of the
change it.
Presbyterian Church.
That's right. It still doesn't
Yeah.
change your um it doesn't change your enthusiasm about it and the fact that you found a home. It's just good to know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it is like it is an interfaith, it's specifically interfaith. You know, yes, people might say, oh, it's online, but the funny thing is it is legally recognized in all 50 states, right? It is all 50 states recognized because again,
Yeah, I bet it does. I bet it
yeah,
does.
it is. It is, especially the only thing that you need legal permission is marriage, and that marriage is recognized in all 50 states. These two organizations,
That's
you
great.
know.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Did
That's
you know them before?
I actually, when I left the African Methodist Episcopal Church, I got my license at the Universal Life Ministry so that I could continue in the
Mm-hmm.
interim where I figured out what I wanted to do. I could
Mm-hmm.
continue to bury and marry and do those things. So I joined them, but by the time I became a chaplain, I was a part of another denomination.
Okay.
But yeah, so I did know about them years ago, decades ago, but I just don't know. That's the one piece I never used them for board certification, so I don't know. But this is good.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. And
Yeah.
I love the smile on your face when you were like, and boop, I got it.
I'm telling you, one day I got it, and one day I got ordained. I'm like, okay, this is something I really need to share with you because I've never heard about it. I've heard about nothing of that sort. So it really solved to me. I mean, if board certification come along, I'm still a member of the Presbyterian Church, and then this church is a small community. The board of the certification might not know them. That's not a problem. I'm still a member of a tradition that will still be able to do it for me.
That's good too. That's
Yeah,
excellent. Very good. All right, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for sharing that with me. Yeah.
yeah. And I wanted to share also, I'm doing that for my verbatim. I did it for my verbatim too, but this is
Okay.
something that I think it touches also your area, not just as supervisor of CPE, your own humanist theology. On Sunday, and it's funny because Sunday is the day I traveled to Arizona. I had not planned to go to church that day. But when I woke up, my kids are very slow in finishing their packing. I said, you know what, you guys finish packing, let me run to church. After church, I'll come and we drive. And at church that day was Faith. Faith is one of my students in Bible study at church. I've known her really for a long time. She's third year in college, see, Irvine or something like that. I always sit in the front, so I literally did not see her. But the sermon that day, it's my verbatim thing for tomorrow. The sermon that day was on the prodigal son. And the pastor preached on the prodigal son. And when the church finished, one of the ushers came and told me that Alice, your daughter, because they call all those children, they refer to me with all those children. I've not seen her. She's not been in church for a while. She was profusely crying behind. And one of the usher told me, your daughter is really crying. Would you mind to see her? I said, okay. When we finished, church finished, I was talking with the pastor. She came up and said, Auntie Alice, could you give me some time after church? I said, oh, sure, sure. I didn't tell her, the usher already told me. So we went to the back office and I said, what's going on? She was crying. Okay, backstory. Faith mother and father divorced. It was very brutal and very contentious because he had woken up one day, left, never came back. That was it. She was 12 at that time. Left, never came back. So Faith has always have a very difficult relationship with her mother. Very difficult. I know that for a long time. So when that sermon, okay, the sermon is on the son, no daughters. So I think the trigger there, because I think it's a built-up trigger. I think she's one of those my children in the Bible study who had the analytical ability to question. She questions everything. She was one of those. She's not afraid to just question everything. So she told me. So I said, "What's going on?" So the conversation started. What's going on? And to summarize the whole thing, fundamentally. And it's true, Pastor had so focused on the prodigal sons and sons. And the fact of a runaway son triggered in her the runaway dad. And she felt like all the things she's harboring, the Bible keep on again and again not addressing the daughters and how they feel. And she felt that sermon did not even address any of them as the girls or women at church that day, but it was just a huge trigger. And she became very annoyed, and it's like in that service she was crying. She's like, she felt again the whole thing about her father came, and she's not, again, in that conversation, I found out she has not been doing well in school. She's a very smart kid. But this semester and last semester, she wasn't been doing well because she's been harboring internal. It's a child that will ask questions when she's comfortable with you, but she internalizes a lot of pain. She hardly will say it. So I think she's been harboring a lot of pain for so long that sermon triggered it and said, well, Pastor Bryce, why couldn't he also make it feel, oh, this is not just about sons, it's about daughters. Why couldn't he also talk about the men who like her father? So so she said, Auntie Alice, I just don't feel like coming to church anymore. Every time I go to church, it feels like it's not a place for young girls like myself to find that. It's not a place where she feels empowered. Plus all the things that has been going on in her life of her mother. So she has this huge crisis of faith. She did therapy, she told me, but therapy didn't work. That they sit there, they just ask a question and question and question, like they really doesn't care. It did not work. So she stopped therapy. She has stopped therapy, I think, for 2 years now. But she's like, oh, how will you expect me to come to church? She tried to come to church again. You've not seen me. Even when I come on vacation, I don't come because I don't think that the church really care about people like me, you know. Or the church is a place when I go. She said, systematically, I go to church, I don't feel good when I go back. And she said, what kind of a God is this? She said, what kind of a God is this that only cares about sons and not about daughters? Because I'd done a Bible study to them. I did a Bible study on Deborah to show them at that time, but at that time, I don't know whether she was in Nigeria, but anyway. But massively, it's true. This absence of the recognition and legitimization, the fact of legitimizing the girls and things, she feels so broken. And so we had a 1 hour conversation. I couldn't pray with her. I asked, I didn't put her in my bedroom, but she wasn't ready for that. And but one thing she said, she really, and it's true, she trusts me. She really trusts me because when we were doing, well, she was my student in at church. She was able, people say, oh, she talks, but she was able to talk. But every time she talks is to critique something. I know that's true. But it's because of the building trauma she has and the questioning she had. So I finally decided I'm going to, I told her, if I asked her, this time it's funny because Melanie and Darren, they are the one who's like, will you keep on with me? But this one I really asked her, do you mind me checking on you and we talking, you and I talking, because she quit therapy. If she was very quick at saying yes, because she finds that I create that trust that she can talk to. At home, she doesn't talk to her mom because I had called her mom and said, how is Faith? That was curiosity. I just wanted to know. So I don't know. She doesn't talk to me.
Mm.
She's 21. But I find it more and more um, hard for young girls like Faith, who are very curious, who are able to articulate or ways of understanding the Bible that comes out as confrontation, as critique. I find it more and more hard. I decided, again, I'm very overloaded at this time. I decided, you know what? Maybe I should hold like a Zoom Bible studies for this young group. I had quit that. But I'm beginning to ask myself, maybe I should just have, even if it's twice a month or something, a continuation that will allow these kids a space that they can talk. Because again, their age group, even my daughter who is 17, is like the church is for adult. It's only adult, sermon is adult, everything is adult. It doesn't really talk about us. Anyway.
Wow.
Um, But again, I feel overwhelmed. I'm conflicted, and that's why I want to also share with you to gather your idea. Um, I'm conflicted though, but I think it's an absolute necessity. Um, I'm even thinking further, how can we do even church Bible study for consciousness raising, that people need to really be sensitive when they preach, especially in texts that really seemingly exclude a particular group, how to bring it in such a way that everybody is addressed, that people feel included. Um, yeah, because the church room for me should be a place everybody want to run to,
Mm-hmm.
not a place that pushes people away. This is not the first time in my church. It's not the first time that people will come with much interest and leave. Come, it's like a shopping mall. People come and leave. People come and leave. Anyway, let me hear from
Wow.
you.
I appreciate your sensitivity to her journey, and I just want to affirm that the trust she has for you, that's a gift and skill that you have in establishing trust, and the different orienting systems and the different generations, and yet she trusts you. And also the tradition, your auntie or your daughter, however
Mhm.
that intimacy is there, and you found a way to honor that and nurture it and yet hold some boundaries. And I think it's huge, Alice, that you're aware that you're exhausted, and
You make me aware, or
and
you
willing to
brought that.
state it. Yeah.
Right.
I I could not help but think about the fact that in your next CPE unit, which will be here quickly, you have
Mm-hmm.
a project that you have to do. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe that conversation space could be your project.
Mm. That would be fantastic.
And then you wouldn't be,
Mm-hmm.
you know, overextending yourself as much. It would also fit
Mm-hmm.
into what you're currently doing. That
Mm-hmm.
is one way to help us thrive, to see how much of
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing we can work into what we're really focused on.
That would be fantastic. I can push that. It's September, right? I can
I
literally
know it's
push
here
that to
before you know
September.
it. Right.
Uh, yeah, yeah. I think this is fantastic to know because trust me, I am tired.
Hmm.
I have enough on my table right now that I'm sensitive to her. So her is fine. I can be talking to her, but I
Right.
mean, her cry is a plea for something to be done, not just
Right.
for her, for others. And that I would love to do
Right.
as in that context.
So I don't know, how it will evolve because I realize we're just talking about it. You're not even saying,
Mhm,
"Hey, I'm going to do this."
mhm,
I wonder if it would be a way to structure a project that is a demonstration of moving from this place of victim
mhm.
and pulling out of her creator,
Amen.
where
Mhm,
she articulates what that gathering or coming together or something different in the church looks like, or at least she's
mhm,
a part of it, so that
mhm,
that is she's developing a long-term skill.
mhm,
Because one skill that she is offering is when it doesn't fit, walk away. And that's valid.
mhm,
I call that very relevant and positive Hagar energy. Go
mhm,
away when it ain't working.
mhm,
And
mhm,
another skill could be what could you create in this
mhm.
context that would not only work for you, but might also work for others. So
Right.
you can have it in the back of your mind as opposed to put it at the top of your mind right now.
Mhm, mhm.
And
I
you
think
can
it's fun.
journey with her.
That's fantastic. I think it's fantastic because the whole point is to move them from this victim mentality to being creators, right? And just seeing what is wrong with the church, but be creators of what could be that is empowering for your age group. How
Mm.
could you advocate for that to happen rather than move away from the church? How can you create or how can you help create a space where the youth, like at your age, or young women at your age, can be a part of the church community, and the church community is inclusive, yeah, of them. It's for me, it's really a lamenting because it's true. This church is so, this is the thing, this Holy Spirit call me pastoral ministry. You know what I mean by that, right?
Right.
These pastors who are not theologically trained, that is the essence. I don't know what to do about that. The essence of training is to allow you not only read the Bible as a literal text, to know that the Bible is not free floating, it emerges within a particular context and worldview. You know, that when that is lacking in this, for most of these pastors, African pastors, to be honest, it's lacking. So the thing is, the Timothean text becomes the key. It is inspired, it's the bread of God. So everything in it is, you need to theologically justify even things that are hurting people to be divinely inspired. You know, that lack of pastoral training, I'm seeing it again and again and again. And the pastor of this church, even though he's way better than most of these, that's why I'm actually there, he's way better than most of these African pastors that wake up one morning and say, God has called me. The next day they open the church, but they still lack the theological knowledge. They really lack it. The Lord is lacking. My pastor, for instance, I think I shared with you once, for one of his birthday, I bought logos and I populate his logos gift with commentaries, good commentaries that could allow him to read the commentaries, and some of them are preachers' commentary that you literally can download sermons, right? It has tools. I spent what was like nearly $1,000 because I said to myself, you don't just deconstruct or problematize, find a way to construct something. I did that and I gave him. This man was so happy. Madonna, I'm not sure how often he even opens that. You still have these sermons that are so insensitive to the room. That doesn't
So you're
feel.
not sure he opens that?
I'm not a lot of the time
Or
because really, if
or
he
is it
does,
that you're sure he doesn't?
I'm sure he doesn't open.
He does.
No, he
Well,
doesn't.
wait a minute. Hold on a second. You did that some time ago. Critique that now in terms of whether it was rescuing, fixing, or coming alongside him.
You are going to my weakness. You're speaking out to my biggest weakness. I did that to fix, right? Because
Yeah,
again, don't shoot. This is a fine line between fixing in a positive way, because for me, I thought there is a lack right here. And instead of feeling, oh, this is lacking, I try to solve the problem. I'm like, give him a
but
tools.
you still don't know what the problem is. Your
Yeah.
assumption is that it's a lack of tools. So you gave him the
Mhm.
tools, but did you
Yes.
come alongside him?
No, I
No,
just gave him the
you
tools he
just
was,
give him the
and I,
tools. So we don't know what's up with dude, but we do know he's not using the tools.
mm-mm.
Yeah.
My thing, the fixing really will be, I think, okay, you are a pastor, an experienced one. How do we get this encourages, but I don't care whether it's seminary training, but something, just some Bible knowledge. I mean, just some training. Because I'm telling you, my people perish because of lack of knowledge is a truth. When I take a word literally, I take that very literally. In the church, a lot of perishing happen because of lack of knowledge.
So you've identified the problem,
Yes. But
and
you will tell me that is fixing.
I would say it's one thing to know that the horse is thirsty and to bring the horse water. It's another thing to know why the horse is thirsty. Because when you fix it and bring the horse water and the horse does not drink the water, then you are frustrated and you got a whole lot
Mhm.
of water and the horse still is thirsty. So you do actually have to come alongside the horse and figure out why and be in conversation with him and figure out what's happening here. What is this about? And it may be the very obvious things, it could be all sorts of obvious things. Laziness, it could be ignorance, it could be a sense that this is the right way. It could be a valuing of this revelation. It could be a demonizing of education. I mean, it could be a whole lot of things. It could be somebody doesn't know how to read.
Demonizing of theological education is one
Anti-intellectual.
of it.
Yeah, it could be
Yes, yes,
anti-intellectual.
yes. But that is a cop out for people who don't want to invest in it.
But
Because a lot of
but buying
pastors will do
books,
that.
yeah, but buying the resources for some and giving the resources to someone who's in that space, it doesn't change anything other than the money you no longer have now. So it
But
really does require coming alongside for in this particular case and figuring out what's going on with him. Does he know he's doing harm? Does he even know that? Does he value those whom he's harming? I mean,
you
it's a
know,
lot. A lot of assessment is missing as I'm always pushing you towards spiritual.
assessment. Yeah.
So that's how you know it's fixing. When you jump in and go, here,
I
and you
always
don't know
jump in
why.
to fix. I'm always finding a fixer, and that fixer was spending nearly $1,000, which didn't change much, but it's true. And then you get frustrated. I'm getting really frustrated because, look, a lot of people come to that church and leave. It is like a shopping mall. A lot of people come into that church. Before Faith came to request to meet with me on that Sunday, I was talking with Pastor Bryce because of what he said. He was okay before he preached this sermon. He did a detour to talk about the war that is currently going on Iran. But this is what he said, which was for me off-putting. he said, God is with Israel. Israel is the chosen people. God is with Israel, right? And for it, the way it sounded, it's like Israel is authorized to just kill people because God is with them. If Israel is in the war, God will always be on the side of Israel. It was very explicit. God will choose Israel. So we should pray for Israel nation. And somebody blurbed and the war, not just pray for Israel. And there was somebody blurbed behind me, and he's a friend of mine. So after church, I'm saying this to say sometimes he's very, when I speak with him, he's really aware. He's not this kind of person who is like, oh, he doesn't, he really listens. Like when I met with him immediately after church, and I brought it to him, I said, Pastor Price, may I add something about Israel? And I told him, the one thing I enjoy and I love really with Israel's story with God is how many times the word remember occurs. It's like God continually tell Israel, remember, and remember what? That you were slave in Egypt. What does that mean? It's like a God who chose and was on the side of Israel because Israel was the marginalized, oppressed, disenfranchised group of people. That's the situation in which God chose Israel as the weak one in that space of giants, everybody killing. And that story of Israel, that constant remember, God always want them to remember how they themselves were the victims, oppressed people, and this remembrance carried through the hand passing through the Assyrians, Babylonians, the Persians, the Romans, is as a colonized people. And I said, for me, when I read Luke 4, that whole setting up of Jesus's ministry as fundamentally on the side, again, God's reiterating he's on the side of the marginalized and the oppressed. It's a God who will stand with the marginalized and the oppressed. It doesn't mean when Israel turned to be the power that becomes the oppressor, becomes the exterminator. You cannot use that identity of as a reason and you say God is on their side. I say for me, the only people God is always on their side is the marginalized, the disenfranchised, those who have no power. God is always on their side. So if Israel makes a decision to exterminate innocent Palestinians, you can't tell me that God authorizes that. I don't see that kind of God who authorizes the massive killing of um, disenfranchised, marginalized, poor people. So for me, I have a hard time, say, Pastor Bryce, I have a hard time because people in this church have complained about it, and which is true, is must we always stand with Israel, even if Israel is the oppressor? Right? And he said that. It's funny because when I met with him, I didn't know other people that someone would hit hard. A lady called me on Tuesday to complain about that, and she was thinking of leaving the church. It's like she has a different philosophy. Why would God stand with Israel no matter what when Israel kills innocent people? So at least in that moment when I spoke with him, he realized that he should have qualified it. So yes, sometimes he is aware of the problem that that happens when we just take the fact Israel is the chosen nation and use that as an excuse to excuse Israel from everything.
Mm. And he was able to hear you.
Yes, he did. He was able to hear me, but he's already spat it out. This woman, I convinced her and I said,
What was
but
your
what
evidence that he heard you and he understood that his words were harmful? What led you to that conclusion?
he told me he was grateful and he told me that that's true, that he should read more carefully. Because we did a Bible
That,
study
that,
of
that was
remembrance.
it? He said he should read more carefully?
He said that he will read more carefully, that he's grateful, that is true. He realized that it is true that he should have qualified it.
Qualified
That
it and say,
he didn't go further than that. You should have qualified that particular statement that God in this war is on the side of Israel.
Yeah. Qualify. Okay.
Mhm.
Mm.
But he needs to do, I think he needs to do so. You will say the fixer, but he needs to, the fact that, okay, one person called me, how many people also heard that? And even Sister Judy was sitting behind, spouted, God is with Israel and God is with the world, right? So
Mhm.
these are two people who openly critique that. How many people also is, I think that, again, for me, it might be fixing, but I think helping the church not to, I don't know what to say. Um,
Mm.
we do Bible study every Thursday. I think, but you will say it's a fixer, is fixing, but I really think we need to bring this to Bible study.
I would not say the fixer is fixing. I really, in the paradigm of assessing, and
Mm-hmm.
then your intervention informed by your assessment, and functioning as a coach or a challenger in that place with him, not being a persecutor or a rescuer. I think that's very important.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hear, in response to what you said, someone saying I should have clarified does not ring true to me with understanding.
Mm-hmm.
If all you think you needed to do was tweak.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you said, I need to apologize, I was wrong, well, then I might begin to think, oh, there is some understanding here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my initial reaction to the notion that he got it because he wanted to tweak his comment or qualify it. So I would not say you were fixing, that you feel led to respond and you feel that the Bible study may be an avenue to do that at all. I would say you're assessing. This is what the input. You got the information from the person behind you. You got the phone call on Tuesday. You had your own lived experience. You had an encounter with him. You're still assessing. Okay, there is a problem here in this unequivocal naming of the people of Israel as the chosen people. That within itself is a problematic theology. Now, what intervention can I have as a spiritual care provider in this context?
Mm-hmm.
That's not fixing. That's
Mm-hmm.
assessing and choosing an intervention. And then when you choose the intervention, how is that going to unfold in a way that empowers people for me to come alongside as opposed to for me to be the rescuer? How do I
Mm-hmm.
challenge? Because I wonder if when you think Thursday in the Bible study, you think I need to teach. That's different. That framing, what needs to come alongside you, just like with the group. I should have a group where they can come together at least, well, young people can come together at least twice a month, young people like faith, and they have a safe space. That's fixing. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
I can continue my assessment with faith, and I can invite her to a conversation about what might we be able to do. So it's the same thing with this. That's the part, because you keep taking it on your shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
want to invite you to not put it on your shoulders, to receive that urgency and awareness that is within you because of your education, because of your training, what you are able to perceive. That's a gift, and your courage to share it. Now, I encourage you in the context that we're in, assess, choose an intervention, and an intervention that has others come alongside you, not you are.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Right.
challenge, you coach.
Mm-hmm.
And therein, the situation may be fixed, but it would
Mm-hmm.
be a journey towards resolution
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to Alice is going to fix. Do you hear the difference?
That is absolutely, I get you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Because the fixer in me is jumps and say, okay, there's a problem here. We really need to. Yeah. That the church is already, there's so much, as I shared to you, there's so much tension in that church. Oh my God, there's so
Right,
much. But when we
right.
come together on Sunday, we shouldn't do, it shouldn't create more division in terms of, yeah. But
And you can position yourself to be a part of an alternative pattern
mhm,
by what you model in terms of
mhm,
assessing and intervention and how
Mhm.
collectively we respond to it. It really reminds me of that Healthy Church book.
Yeah, I bought it. I've not even read it. Yeah.
I'm clear you haven't. I'm clear you haven't read it. Start reading. Start reading
Uh, I will when it's like right now. It's like
I get it. I get it. I totally understand.
uh,
Can, is it okay if I direct your attention to something from your spirit?
yes, please,
Okay.
please.
So in category B, where you talked about awareness of self and others under outcome
Mm-hmm.
two, and you were talking particularly about Darren's story, that was
Mm-hmm.
powerful, insightful,
Mm-hmm.
so well
Mm-hmm.
written. Excellent, excellent, excellent. In
Mm-hmm.
outcome two, where you're dealing with relational boundaries, you're naming your pattern of over functioning. And
Mm-hmm.
I know in a lighthearted way, but I want you to hear that right here, you name two patterns of over functioning. So just that
Mm-hmm.
you talk about it and you have an opportunity to go, oh, you're on your way. So I want to affirm
Mm-hmm.
you're naming it and encourage you to continue to find alternatives for it. I also
Mm-hmm.
think it was excellent, your analysis of family systems theory, your integration of that,
Mm-hmm.
your ability to see it in all four scenarios, Melanie,
Mm-hmm.
Darian, Alphonsine, Kim Merrick, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying that right. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Naming them and using that tool, just
Mm-hmm.
extremely well done. And I love the work that you're doing. I want to encourage you under awareness of self and others when you address your awareness of growing edges around biases. I want to encourage you to name
Okay.
even more the bias that you're seeing with Darren. I love the reframing of the academic probation as a moment of resilience and not shame. I wonder
Mm-hmm.
if there's also some academic systemic bias in there in terms of how the
Mm-hmm.
academy
Mm-hmm.
labels progress and how it organizes
Yes.
academic pursuits. So excellent. I
Mm-hmm.
love your uh, comment about your growing edge remains managing emotional proximity while
Mm-hmm.
maintaining spiritual objectivity. And I agree with you. The work reflected in this week's reflection is a meaningful step forward. So I just celebrate that
Mm-hmm.
with you. And I
Mm-hmm.
want to affirm in terms of your group dynamic, where you said, as I warm up to my cohort, I notice a growing openness and willingness to be more vulnerable. I share
Mm-hmm.
more and I get valuable feedback from them. And you do it without slipping into the mothering role.
Mm-hmm.
I saw mothering in the first unit, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't see mothering now with this group. Now, maybe because you don't like them, but I'm just kidding. But I want to affirm your realization of what comes up for you and how
Mm-hmm.
you are moving in that direction. And in light
Mm-hmm.
of that, I would love for you to unpack a comment that you made in group and feedback to Alfredo. You said his spiritual care statement and goals and all of it sounds like church.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Unpack that for me a little.
Um, to be very authentic, when I was listening to them, I felt like I'm sitting in the pew in church, right? Was directly like it's something I would say addressed to the church than in a situation with a caregiver, right? Unless that caregiver was somebody of faith and that same faith tradition, because he was really bringing a lot of the Bible. The it was a lot of I would say like preaching like you and a lot of quotation of the Bible. I mean, um,
Well, my academic discipline is homiletic, so I'm a little offended that you call that preaching, but I understand what you mean. Continue.
yeah, yeah, because again, my perception and what I've been learning and receiving from both you and CPE is in moments like that. Again, when the conversation doesn't draw you to that kind of spiritual exhortation, don't go there. And even if you go there, because again, it was a lengthy exhortation of, you see, the Bible this, you remember this about the Bible, Jesus this. For me, until now, spiritual care doesn't call you to that, to dive into that, because again, he delved into that in a lengthy way. And I don't, to me, my understanding of spiritual care, especially the specific situation he was speaking into, did not warrant that. And I do not know if the care recipient was in a place that needed that, or was ready for that, or that was what that was needed to be said in that moment. And the lengthiness of this was beautiful, beautiful sermon, but for me, in a wrong situation of the care recipient's need at that space.
So what I'm hearing
Mm-hmm.
is you did not perceive where his spiritual assessment led
Mm-hmm.
to that spiritual intervention.
Right, right.
And I want to affirm your ability to perceive that in him. I want to,
Mm-hmm.
in that example that we had, and
Mm-hmm.
to acknowledge it as best you could with language that you
Mm-hmm.
were being empathetic by saying it was churchy. And I also
Mm-hmm.
want to affirm the idea that that is not spiritual care.
Mm-hmm.
And the question, if you have posed it, I imagine, was that what the spiritual care receiver needed? The answer would have been, yes, I think so. But it still would not have made it spiritual care as we are training.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I encourage you in your realization of where our group is and what we can
Mm-hmm.
say to one another right now. And I also want to invite you to use the language you're learning because it helps. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think the heart of it was there, there was no spiritual care assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a faith response as if
Right.
we had the same faith. But we don't
Mm-hmm.
know. We don't know. We only know how beautiful and powerful what was said, but we're
Mm-hmm.
still like, this is missing. So I just wanted to affirm your language and your and then push you, invite you, encourage you to use the language that you're learning as a chaplain and acknowledge I I think you were accurate. And I don't know
Mm-hmm.
that it would in that moment, I think all that could be said was said because we're still forming.
Mm-hmm.
And I also thought it important, particularly in light of some of your comments, to
Mm-hmm.
invite you to unpack it to make sure I understood it. So thank you.
Thank
Now I
you.
understand what
Mm-hmm.
you mean, especially now when I think about your church. I understand what you mean by that. And so well done. And I also want to encourage you to use the language.
Yeah.
Thank you for your care for your colleague in that cohort. I
Mm-hmm.
remember when one of your reactions to the cohort was to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm so appreciative that
Mm-hmm.
instead you offered a very
Mm-hmm.
well, carefully said critique. So thank
Mm-hmm.
you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I thank you because I think also sharing with you about my church is helping me stay. Because at some point, I won't lie you, I wanted to just go back to my where I'm really a member in the Presbyterian Church, because I just felt I don't belong there. The philosophy and everything is, this is not just, but then the thing I try not to share with you that, and the way we talk about it just empowers me to say, you know what, stay. And one of the thing I'm fighting is elitism in me. It's like, okay, if only they did a little bit of training, will not be here, will not be, will be different. And that elitism mean also that I critique as again, when I use the language Holy Spirit call me, that's what they said. That is their language that the
That's what
Holy
they
Spirit
say.
call me.
Mm-hmm.
So And then that for me, is it because I'm theologically trained? I just feel like every pastor should be trained somehow. And I just feel if even CNA to take care of an elderly person, you cannot be until you go get trained and be certified. Just to take care, change diaper, how much more the word of God is something that people should take seriously. And if you're called to ministry, be trained. But again, the self-awareness is also like you have to be empathetic. You have to not run away so fast because I've been there in that church for what, 7 to 8 years. So I've stayed. I've really persevered, I've really stayed. But more and more, I just feel the chaos. I don't like chaos.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the chaos is just telling me to run away. And it's that then sharing with you here and just have a space I can talk with you is like, you don't run from chaos. How do you stay and be like participant in creating, to be creator, and rather than just fixing that so it really, really helps me. I want to just say thank you for that.
You are welcome, and I get that. I get that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if I didn't have CP, I would have left that church.
Well, I
But
thank
CP is
God you have
there. No,
CPE.
I would have left. Thank you so much. Really, I would have. Even my mom asked me to leave because even my mom is like, well, she's hardcore Presbyterian. She was elder for 32 years.
Oh
So
my goodness, yes.
yeah. Yeah, my mom was elder for 32 years in the Presbyterian church. So she's hardcore Presbyterian. The only problem with Presbyterian church for her here is they don't dance. It's true.
Right,
They don't dance. It's very
right. Well,
and this one they dance.
you need a dancing Presbyterian church. That's what you need.
Well, please don't say that because my moderator wanted me to be ordained so to create a
I
Presbyterian church
know,
to
everybody
dance.
does.
I don't want that.
Yours is going to become the Universal Life Ministry. We dance like Presbyterians don't. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, you have the background already of my verbatim because it's that story. So at
Okay.
least you have a background than yeah, yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad
Yeah.
we're going to get to talk about it more. Excellent.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
See you
much.
tomorrow.
Okay.
All right.
Thank